Let's take a look at BMNR today, give another update on the stock. This past week has seen BMNR rise roughly 20% from the lows that you found around $17.8 back a couple of weeks ago, and this on the positive news regarding Iran and ceasefire and all of this kind of thing. Now, to me, it does look like you broke down from this bear flag potential pattern that you had on BMNR, and now you are coming back up to test this parallel channel. Now, usually when we have a retest of a parallel channel such as this, you do tend to actually reject from the bottom of that parallel channel, and that gives you the impulse to be able to move lower on the stock. So I would be favoring the most likely case being a breakdown here, and that particularly could come, of course, if there is trouble with the negotiations that are ongoing between the US and Iran at the moment in Pakistan. If we take a look at Ethereum and also Bitcoin, both are in a similar pattern here, which is a pattern that you've sort of had previously as well in this particular bearish phase for cryptocurrencies, where you trade in these kind of bear flag patterns. You get sometimes fake outs to the upside or downside, as we even had back here, as we sort of got a false breakdown on several occasions, and then eventually we did go lower in this instance. The question is, will you be going lower once again on this particular pattern playing out, or will it in fact be a bit of a fake out and a move to the upside, squeezing any shorts that find themselves caught offside? I think this is mostly going to depend on how the negotiations with Iran go. If you get a very strong and definitive resolution and everything in the Middle East can be sorted out and oil prices can come lower, etc., then you may see the markets actually go quite a bit higher. But if there is continued uncertainty on that front, then I think Ethereum and Bitcoin may indeed break down from these patterns that they've been putting in, these bearish flags. And that would mean that Bitmine would probably also be going down. Now, it's quite interesting that it hasn't yet reclaimed its bear flag here. To me, that's a sign because Bitmine is a more highly levered, a higher beta name compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin, essentially. In some way, you can often predict the future price movements of the cryptos themselves based on the price action in these sort of very liquid, high beta names such as BMNR. So if we were to put more weight in BMNR not being able to reclaim these levels, then we might say that actually the move on Ethereum and Bitcoin is not really indicative of much, and that you are probably actually going to come lower. Now, I do want to be constructive and optimistic on treasury companies, on cryptocurrency as well, because they are in this bearish trend. I do think, though, that there is probably more downside to come. You did have this extremely exuberant period for the treasury companies, and you now are in this bearish phase. So I would be kind of surprised if that bearish phase ended only after perhaps 60 days or something like this. If you are to quickly, rapidly come up, I think it's more likely, in the best case, you get a consolidation in these sort of levels, a little bit of an extended one. But I think most likely you probably are still going to come lower. I wish that weren't to be the case, but that has to be, I think, the most likely outcome at the moment. I do have one more chart to show you, and this chart might make you a bit more optimistic on the hopes for BMNR going forward here. This is BMNR over Circle stock, which is another crypto adjacent name. Of course, it's more in stablecoin technology as opposed to being a treasury company, Ethereum bet. But on this ratio, it looks to me like Bitmine has found some kind of a bottom at the lower sort of level of this potential parallel channel. You could also draw it a little bit differently, perhaps aligning the lows down here on the ratio, and you'd get something quite similar actually. So I do think there's probably been a low found here in March on this particular ratio, and that to me is a signal that you're going to be outperforming Circle. Now, what exactly does that mean? It might mean that Circle is going to come down and Bitmine not so much. And that could be a potential of 100% outperformance. I think if you were to go all the way to the top of this parallel channel, it's more likely you get positive price action for both of them, but the positive price action just benefits BMNR a bit more. Perhaps we won't come up all the way there too quickly, and you might come up a bit more on this ratio, perhaps to here 40% outperformance before you find actually a bottom on both BMNR and Circle. And from that point, you then head higher on the ratio. You have that great, performance to the upside for BMNR compared to Circle. If we do take a look at Circle stock, I think it's possible that you do come down to these sort of levels, 20% down to retest this parallel channel, and even also possible that you could come down even more, maybe 33% or even further to fill this gap. Potentially you do come down quite considerably, maybe put in some kind of double low at $50 on Circle stock. And if that were to happen, then that could get you outperformance on either the upside potential for BMNR or the downside. So some things to keep in mind. I think we still have to be wary and cautious, especially because you've not been able to reclaim just yet this particular parallel channel. If you could head back up to sort of $25, $26 and break above there, then we're really going to start seriously thinking about upside on Ethereum, Bitcoin, BMNR, all the rest of it. But if you're remaining capped at those sort of levels, then I would say probably more downside, or at least consolidation is more likely than upside before we get a breakout and some further positive price action. So with that being said, I hope the update is helpful. I am, of course, waiting for lower prices for BMNR. I would very much be a buyer. Or if we get some kind of consolidation and buy signal on the indicator, that would also represent, I think, a very good opportunity to get into this kind of stock, treasury stock. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens and not jump the gun necessarily on this particular name. But with that being said, thanks again for watching. Subscribe as always for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.